Hello, everyone, and welcome to 3Y TV tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series season finale. It is the Beer Street Journal 200 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm Peter Short, and alongside me is none other than Drew Eisenman. And Drew, championship night here tonight. Several contenders going for the possibility of walking away as the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series champion tonight.
Yeah, Jason Gracias comes in with the points in the lead, essentially just needing a top 5 finish to grab the 2021B, 2022A. I'm not sure how they're counting this season, but this season's Truck Series championship. That one, of course, is that big old green, bright green #1 bag craft truck that we're looking at right now. Top 5 in practice, so a pretty solid effort thus far. But now we are here in qualifying, and practice pace doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. It just takes kind of one small error to get yourself caught up a little bit, as now we're looking at Matt Cherry, who is currently our P2 qualifier, with Adam Lighty currently our provisional P1 qualifier. But Peter, only 8 trucks put in laps thus far, so quite a few trucks to go.
Yeah, and as you say that, Philip Scott in the number 99 machine just jumps up to the top of the board. John Cannizzaro Jr. is second. Chris Darling in third. And then the number 60, Evan Gilbert, back in the National Sim Racing Association field here tonight. Adam Lighty now. All right, folks. Sorry, just getting things back online here. YouTube has, unfortunately, don't know why, but YouTube has not been too kind for me, and we are just now getting back to live scenes here at the BeerStreetJournal.com 200. Let's see if we can check out things. And Drew, you have seen the start of the race, and oh my goodness, now there we go. There's live scenes. As Drew, why don't you walk us through the start of the race? Tristan Maher, your pole sitter, is the race leader right now.
Yeah, a pretty clean start. Almost a little bit of contact through 1 and 2 as the 81. Now in third position, our second place starter got a little bit loose on the outside of Matt Cherry, who is now making a move for the race lead. Other than that, fairly clean start. But some really great racing, as you see once again, the 81 losing the rear end of that truck, having to chase it up the track. I think that's one thing that these guys are going to be battling a ton here tonight, Peter, is just that rear end stepping out on them. But I think that that's going to produce some really great racing, as it's going to really allow that high lane to work really, really well. As I think we're going to see Tristan Maher do a really good job. Oh, a little bit of wall contact for the 17. He has to get way out of the throttle. That's going to hand Matt Cherry the race lead.
Matt Cherry up at the front of the field. Folks, I'm going to be keeping an eagle eye on my connection here. I've reset my connection a couple times here today. We've had some severe weather in the state of Texas in form of ice storms, and I think my local ISP has been having issues. They're also our electric provider, and if that's saying anything, they have had quite a few power outages over the last 24 hours. So unfortunate that we missed the start of tonight's Beer Street Journal 200, but we are here now logging some laps up at the front of the field. Jason Gracias, Drew, who started this race, I believe in the 11th position. You were mentioning to me just before we got back on air that he needs to finish basically just in the top 5 to try and wrap up this title. And right now, he's worked his way already into the top 5 in 5th.
Yeah, really solid job. This is basically the night he needs to have. He doesn't need to go out there. He doesn't need to lead every lap, but he does need to finish competitively. If he falls outside that top 10 and either the 971 or the 11 is able to grab the race victory, they're going to be in a really good spot to potentially snag this title here tonight. The 12, that purple and white truck, the Kmart wins machine right there, that's John Cannizzaro, who has been so quick throughout the season, but quite frankly just hasn't had the last few races that he really needed in order to really be in a really solid position for the championship battle. He's going to have to win here tonight and hope that quite a few of those championship contenders, if not quite frankly all of them, have some pretty severe misfortune in order to win this championship. But Peter, when you're in that position, all you can really do is try to go lead every lap and win, and then everything else just will play out the way it is. It can be a little freeing. It can reduce the amount of pressure on yourself because you can just go out there and race a little bit. But of course, it's not ideal as far as maybe not having the best possibility to win the championship.
Yeah, that is for sure. Philip Scott, your race leader, has one win to his name so far this season. That came at Dover. Tristan Maher in the number 17 machine. Is he in the inside wall? Where is Tristan Maher? There he is, off the racetrack, and he's pulled off. Drew, no caution flag for that. Let's see what happened here to tonight's pole sitter.
Yeah, you're going to see coming out of turn 2, that 17 truck, who obviously great one-lap pace, but hasn't really been great under green flag conditions. Right here, truck over-rotates, doesn't quite catch it early enough. The thing takes a hard left to the inside wall, a flush hit. That's going to really jack up that truck, and I think the 17 just decides, we're taking this thing to the garage, and that will very likely be the end of his race. In fact, it is, as he is disconnected from the server. So our pole sitter here tonight, Peter, didn't even make 10 laps. I think that shows that, hey, one-lap pace is cool, and it can be really advantageous to be quick over one lap, but it certainly is not going to win you the race here tonight. That's
for sure. Definitely not going to win you the race. You have to complete all 134 laps here, just over 200 miles around the Atlanta Motor Speedway Beer Street Journal 200, the final round of the 2021B/2022A series here in the National Sim Racing Association. We are hearing that it's going to be a couple of weeks, maybe even a month and a half before we go back racing here on Friday nights on 3Wide TV. We will be bringing you more action here on the channel and the National Sim Racing Association. Very much looking forward to it, but we have this one on hand here tonight for everyone at home. There's Jason Gracias, your points leader, on the high side with Chris Darling in the number 11 to his inside. And Drew, let's talk about the other championship contenders here tonight as Christopher Darling comes into tonight third place in points. He is 38 points behind Jason Gracias, so he's going to have to need at least get a little bit of luck in his favor in that Taz Racing Customs Ford F-150 if he wants to walk away with the title here tonight. But he knows how to get to victory lane so far. 3 wins to his name this season. Nathan Maurer in the number 971 machine. We're usually seeing Nate slowly but surely make his way up through the field as the race goes on. We're going to have to see that here tonight. Comes into tonight as your second place driver in points, 34 markers behind Jason Gracias. Much like Darling, he's going to have to need a little bit of luck here at this mile-and-a-half racetrack, but at least for right now, he's keeping all 4 fenders on the Simbach Chevrolet nice and clean. Meanwhile, some good side-by-side action right behind him. That's Adam Leichte, who was also very, very quick in the craigsetupshop.co.uk. Big shout out to craigsetupshop.co.uk for sponsoring tonight's pole shootout. And all season long, if you want to get one of the best setups in all of iRacing, check out our friends over at craigsetupshop.co.uk, because they're fast, and Adam Leichte was fast in qualifying. Now he has fallen back just a little bit here, drew down to the 15th position as they run.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies for stepping on you there, Pete. But you were talking about Nathan Maurer. To me, he has been the driver that has just impressed me so much with, okay, the chase is on, flip that switch. And that's what we've seen, that 971. Yeah, he did qualify in 18th position, but to me, that 971 really harkens back to the old school 2000s Matt Kenseth, where the qualifying pace just doesn't seem to be there, but get him into race conditions, get him on some great strategy calls, which he just seems to have done almost every single chase race thus far. And that 971, more often than not, is going to be in the top 5, maybe better, by the end of the night. And it's just been so impressive to see that form come to fruition for that 971. And then, just to kind of keep on the comparison route, I think the one of Jason Gracias, he's got to be the modern kind of Kyle Larson, where it doesn't seem like the track type or the setup, handling characteristics, any of that stuff matters. It feels like that one just always finds his way to the front. I don't know. What would you say that 11 of Chris Darling is, Pete? Because I'm not coming to any particular driver in mind.
I think Chris Darling, I think if you were to ask him, he'd probably want to say that he's kind of like Scott Riggs back in the Busch Series, where when Scott, now I got to say, that's kind of a fair analogy, because Scott Riggs back in the old Busch Series, he would kind of have these races where he was just absolutely lights out, and then he'd have some races where he was just kind of off the mark. And that's Chris Darling sometimes. He goes to some racetracks, Drew, and he seems absolutely untouchable, absolutely unbeatable. He's got 3 wins to his name this season. But then if you go back and look at Darling's results over this series, he's also had some big stinkers. Las Vegas, he finished outside the top 10. Talladega got involved in an accident. Richmond got involved in an accident. Then he really started off the season with a really rough start. Daytona 20th, Iowa 28th. Outside the top 10 at Milwaukee after being a very fast truck there. And then a 16th place finish at Texas. So he's kind of been up or down. But with that being said, Darling does have 3 wins this season, 6 top 5s and 10 top 10s. And you compare that with Jason Gracias, who has just had 1 finish outside the top 10 all season long. And that came all the way, believe it or not, Drew, back at the season opener at Daytona, finished 25th. But every other start that he has made so far this year, he's finished inside the top 10. Did miss 3 races in a row, Texas, Watkins Glen, and Bristol, for unknown reasons. But with that being said, he's been very consistent. But Darling, man, when he's on a roll at these racetracks. And so far, he's looking pretty good here tonight, all the way up into the 5th position, and the 4th position, and he's run down John Cannizzaro Jr. Cannizzaro gets a little bit loose out of turn number 4, and Darling now gets underneath him.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with this 11 for the first 20 laps of this race. It's no surprise, right, that as runs go on, the 11 gets stronger. But this is, fairly early in a run relative to kind of his pace advantages. Oh, man, Jerry gets dead sideways. I want to talk about not surprising things, is that 54 getting dead sideways out of the corners. That seems like the 54 manages to do that about every place we go to. And now the 11 of Chris Darling. Suddenly, Peter, looking at 2nd position while Jason Gracias has faded to 8th. Now, I did do the math while we were chatting about that. Jason Gracias, without taking bonus points into consideration, just on raw race points, of course, there are bonus points available for leading laps, leading the most laps, etc., etc. 0 incidents comes into the play as well. But just raw points themselves, Jason Gracias has to grab 36 more points, 34 more points than Chris Darling, who is our 2nd points position driver. I believe second points, right around there. But nonetheless, if he finishes 7th or better, that one will very likely take home the championship. But he's not in 7th, or he is exactly in 7th right now, and Chris Darling in 2nd position, putting himself right there with the opportunity, if the one has a small slip-up, to potentially grab this thing. And I'm really impressed with what this 11 is doing as we're riding on board with Matt Cherry. You had that big moment there, Peter. And one thing, when you're watching Matt Cherry, those things don't tend to be isolated incidents. He tends to have quite a few of those moments back-to-back, which really can hurt his race chances, because once you get those rear tires hot, it is so difficult to cool those things down.
Yeah, that's for sure. Also want to highlight Nick Kessler in the number 88. Much like the number 11 of Chris Darling, Kessler starting to work his way forward. So right now, Taz Racing Customs machines rolling in 2nd and 3rd. Big shout out to Taz Racing Customs. There's a link in the description to their Facebook page where you can get a custom Taz Racing custom diecast. Say that 10 times fast. And also, they're sponsor of the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. So that's always fun to see, and we might have to do some math at the end of this one, because unfortunately my live timing scoring was not perfect, as Kessler gets a little bit loose out of turn number 2. Drew, seems like turn number 2 getting really treacherous out there right now.
Yeah, not terribly surprising. You typically have a little more wheel coming out of 2, because it's a tighter exit, because you don't open up to the tri-oval like you have on the front stretch at Atlanta. So 4, a little more open on exit. Turn 2, you have a little bit more wheel. It's tighter. So all of a sudden, when that truck starts to unload that back end, because you're trying to turn the car a little bit more, that thing can really get out from under you. And so it's not surprising that turn 2 is being so difficult for especially the number 54, who tends to be to loose everywhere. I got to take his advice into account last week, and no, Peter, easy in, hard off, kind of square off the exit like MotoGP bikes tend to do, right? Break in a straight line, cut it, pick the thing up, go back in a straight line, and maybe I can get these things to turn a little bit more, as the 54 and 12 battling here for that 4th position, as now we're looking at the Beer Street Journal machine. That is the 39 of Stan Hausman running in 16th position. Qualified 23rd. Some pretty awesome moves forward for that number 39 machine. And I got to say, Peter, a shout out to that number 6 scheme, the Folgers machine of Doug Milner. That is a fantastic looking truck.
Yeah, typically sporting that Mark Martin Viagra throwback scheme, now sporting the Mark Martin Folgers throwback scheme, as Stan Hausman picks up another position, one of the locals to the Atlanta area. Just wanted to give him a shout out. And Beer Street Journal on the hood, tonight's race sponsor. There's a link in the description of the video to beerstreetjournal.com. And while you're watching here tonight on 3Wide TV, we very much suggest you go check out beerstreetjournal.com. Just want to head over to the chat. We've been keeping an eye on the chat over there, and we got the Stay Tuned Sports in the chat here tonight. One of our pit crew members here on 3Wide TV, Stan Hausman, another 3Wide TV pit crew. If you want to join the 3Wide TV pit crew team, well, all you have to do is hit that join button for only $1 a month. You get custom emotes in the chat, and going to spam some of those emotes for everyone. And if you're a pit crew member, why don't you spam some emotes as well? Hopefully we see lots of the green flag emote here tonight. Already had one retirement. Tristan Maher has left the racetrack. Randy Bledsoe, also in the number 81, has left the track, and Evan Gilbert just came down pit road a couple of laps ago and also has retired his machine. Trying to see what happened to Randy Bledsoe, see if something happened to him. It looks to me perhaps a connection issue on Randy Bledsoe's machine. I'm not exactly sure. It's unfortunate, because it looked like Randy Bledsoe was off to a pretty decent start. But all of a sudden, I just had a bunch of cars start passing him. So, Drew, I'm not sure if you can research that anymore. Let's see if we can go back and see if we can get a 3Wide TV replay and see if there was any damage to the number 81 machine before he ultimately retired it here tonight. And looks like there was some damage to that truck. Let's see if we can see what happened here on 3Wide TV replay. Already slow. Let's see if we can go back maybe just a little bit further and See if we can see if something happened maybe off of turn number 4 here. Yeah, here we go. Off of turn number 4, Drew gets a little bit loose, gets into the wall right there, and hits the wall again in the middle of the quad oval. Lots of right side damage. You see the field just going on by him, and just lost all these spots. A lot of heavy damage to that number 81, and it looked like it was terminal. You see him right here getting loose and back up into the wall there right in front of Stan Hausman. And later that lap, Randy Bledsoe pulled it onto pit road. Night done for the number 81 machine. Meanwhile, back up at the front of the field, Drew, looks like the number 99, Philip Scott's going to have a race on his hands as Chris Darling slowly starting to creep in.
Yeah, Chris Darling has done a really impressive job running down this number 99. And Peter, now I did a little more research, and if the 11 is able to grab the race victory, of course, he will get a bonus point for leading a lap, which will put him at a 35-point advantage over that number 1 machine. I just got to make sure, checking these points, that I am thinking about this correctly. Because if I think, yeah, okay, so 38 points is what Chris Darling needs. That's 34 is for Nathan Maurer. So Chris Darling probably needs the 1 to fall back 1 more position. I think 7th will be safe for the number 1 of Jason Gracias to still bring home the title. But this is all the 11 can really do here, Peter, is apply pressure to the 99, try to grab that victory. And everything else that happens, you can't always control that stuff. All you can do is control your race, and what the 11's doing is what he needs to do. And I think he tends to only get stronger as these runs go on, and Philip Scott is definitely a guy who maximizes his short run pace, but can struggle in the long run, although these last few laps, Peter, that number 99 to Philip Scott has put some impressive times and actually pulling about 2.5 tenths over that number 11, as now we're looking at Jason Gracias, who is in a battle with Matt Cherry for that 6th position.
Yeah, also has the number 29 of Adam Newton, though, right back behind him. Newton riding right now in 8th. Then it's a pretty big gap back to Nate Maurer, who has worked his way up through the field, Drew, in the Simbox 971. As Gracias gets loose coming out of turn number 4, has to save it. That will open the door for the number 29 of Adam Newton to get to his outside. And now, Drew, things starting to potentially go a little bit south for Jason Gracias. Of course, with that little slide we saw right there, he's going to have some heat in the rear tires, just a little bit of slideways friction. Getting those tires hot. They get a little bit greasy. They get a little bit slippery. He has to watch out now for a lap or 2 to make sure he doesn't exacerbate that problem. But now Adam Newton can kind of smell blood at this point. Gets underneath. Gracias is again. Gracias might have just had a little bit of a moment out of turn number 4. But that's kind of the ways of Atlanta. And all of a sudden, Gracias slides back, potentially sliding back to 8th here. He's really going to have to turn things around as he is kind of going backwards, although Matt Cherry there might have had a little bit of a flirtatious moment with the turn 2 outside wall.
Yeah, not what the number 1 wants to really see right now is you're fading a little bit, you're losing track position, you're losing time. As this group right here is over 4 seconds behind our race leader, Philip Scott, who is, by the way, really impressing me. Peter, about 5 laps ago, he was just under 0.3 of a second ahead of Chris Darling. Now he has stretched it by just under 1/10 a lap to over 0.8 of a second. Is now the number 1 trying to put up a counterattack on that number 29 machine going back underneath. But Peter, one thing I've noticed when these trucks get really loose, especially at Atlanta, that bottom lane is so hard to make work, as you're seeing the 11 get loose off of turn 4. Thankfully demonstrating my point, as it's just so hard, because it's so much easier on that high lane to deal with that oversteer, to deal with that loose condition, because you just have less wheel in the truck, and it's just easier to drive when you can carry more speed on that high lane while putting less wheel into it. It's a lot easier to drive that thing versus trying to make that bottom work when your entry's pinched off, your exit's pinched off. You have to put more wheel into it, which makes that rear end slide even more. That's just so difficult. So that number 1 is going to have to figure out a way to either make that bottom lane work or set that 29 up to where he's going to be able to make that pass on the high lane. As now we're looking at the number 4, Ben Mashburn, who we need to give a little props to. It's a really fantastic run that Ben Mashburn's putting on tonight, running in 5th position, running down that number 88 machine in Nick Kessler.
Yeah, absolutely, Drew. You're 100% right. Ben Mashburn, who got his win earlier this season at the Milwaukee Mile, the Chester's number 4 Ford F-150. Of course, Ben Mashburn's wife, becoming Dr. Mashburn, the podcast sponsor of the race to the front. If the driver wins a pole, they like to start at the rear of the field, work their way up for some extra cash. Don't think we saw any winners this season of the extra bonus cash courtesy of Becoming Dr. Mashburn's the podcast, but make sure you check out the Becoming Dr. Mashburn's the podcast as well as the Stay Tuned Sports podcast, so you can get all your podcasts right here from the National Sim Racing Association as Mashburn goes to work on Nick Kessler coming out of turn number 4. This would be for the 4th position. Mashburn will be calling his own number. John Canizaro Jr. a little bit up the road in the 3rd spot, trying to hang on to Chris Darling, but that gap has ballooned now between Darling and Canizaro to about 0.6 of a second. Philip Scott all by his lonesome up at the front of the field. Speaking of ballooning, his gap now 1.6 seconds back to Chris Darling. And speaking of Chris Darling, we got a taker on pit road. The number 11 Taz Racing Customs, one of our point series contenders, is coming to his pit crew right here. Matt Cherry, Ben Mashburn joining him on pit road. In fact, Mashburn and Cherry right there. And Drew, I think Mashburn might have lost a little bit of ground to Matt Cherry because Cherry was quite a ways back. Looks like the 4 is in his pit box. What about Matt Cherry? He's in his pit box. Chris Darling, hopefully in his pit box. Looks like maybe went a little bit long, but the crew is refueling. There's the number 12 of John Canizaro Jr. coming down to pit road this time. Travis White stays out. Nick Kessler on pit road. The number 29, Adam Newton, the 1 of Jason Gracias. These drivers all coming down to make their first pit stop here on lap number 43, a little bit before the 1/3 race distance. So, Drew, it looks like we're going to have potentially 3 pit stops here tonight. And if you're just now joining us, green flag all the way to this round of green flag pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I guess 40 is not terribly surprising. I mean, these guys are running 100% fuel. But I just didn't know how far these guys could go on fuel. And, short pitting is so dangerous, especially at a track in Atlanta where it's such a challenge to drive the trucks by themselves. And it's so easy to kind of lose a truck and then cause a single car incident. That brings out a caution. But I love this move by the number 11 of Chris Darling, getting down early, undercutting the number 99 by, I think, a full 2 laps here. Now, granted, the undercut doesn't work unless you nail your pit road entry, you nail your pit road exit, and you nail that overall out lap. That lap where you have fresh tires and the trucks around you do not. As the 971 of Nathan Maurer coming down, he was, of course, our leader. So he grabbed that bonus point, Peter, which is huge. It is absolutely massive that Nathan Maurer grabbed that point because that number 1 does not have it. Ooh, I think that's Vinny Valvano in the 64 machine that was awfully close to the inside wall on pit entry. And I can't tell if that's quite some damage on the front end of that truck or if that was just the scheme. But now we're looking at the 23 at Travis White, who has assumed the race lead. And, of course, what these guys are doing is they are trying to just hope that there is a caution as now the 23 comes down pit road. And I got to imagine, Peter, that the guys that have stayed out, that you can't go much more on fuel than about 45 laps, which would make sense that these guys are going to be pitting. So this should be another 1 more stop from here, Peter, I would assume? Or do you think they're going to, 23 overshoots his pit box. Do you think they're going to have to make 2 more stops?
Well, that was actually the question that was going through my head, believe it or not, because we got some drivers. Here's Jeffrey Johnson Jr. staying out there on the racetrack. They're making it 45 laps. Now, 45 laps times 3 is 135. So you could only make it on... No, Jeffrey Johnson Jr., you don't want to do that there, buddy. He gets it woed up, keeps all 4 corners on it. But I was going to say that if you do 45 laps 3 times, you can make it to the race on only 2 pit stops. We saw most of our leaders, though, come down around lap number 40 or so. So they will presumably have to make 3 pit stops. This is a racetrack, though, Drew, where tire fall-off is usually quite significant just due to the fact that this track surface, may it rest in peace, because they just tore up this track surface, but the track surface in iRacing is very old, very abrasive. Tires wear out very quickly and doesn't provide a lot of grip. That's one of the reasons why we see these F-150 Silverados and Tundras slide around this particular racetrack. But Chris Darling is your race leader, and Philip Scott. Drew, coming back down pit road here. This is unscheduled pit stop. Fred Lester, I think, at the back of the screen, also coming down pit road. But Philip Scott's been dominant here tonight. Why on earth is he coming back down pit road? Do you think perhaps maybe they did not fuel the number 99 truck?
So he's stopping in his pit box, and we will see. I can't imagine. Well, I guess the 99 wasn't the race leader, so maybe he either sped on exit or he didn't fuel the truck. I know I have had problems with iRacing pit crew not fueling the truck, and I got to imagine, based on that pit stop time, that in fact was the issue, that his pit crew did in fact not put fuel in. Sometimes the default doesn't, for some reason, put fuel being added to your truck or vehicle, whatever vehicle that is, under the pit stop. You always have to double check that, and especially under green flag conditions. At a place like Atlanta, where you're driving the thing the whole time, it can be a big challenge to make sure that happens. But that is a great gift for Chris Darling in that 11 machine, as now he has assumed the race lead, of course, now grabbing that bonus point for leading a lap. But he has not really gotten this without a little bit of effort, as that 12 machine, John Cannizzaro, all over his rear tailgate.
Yeah, Cannizzaro pitted one lap after Chris Darling, so advantage on the fresher tires to the number 12 machine right there, with the throwback wins Kmart machine right there. So I just wonder here, Drew, we've been green flag for the opening 50 laps, which we were talking pre-race before all the chaos broke out with my computer, unfortunately, and the connection, which appears like I've dropped some frames, but it seems like everything's been relatively stable. But it seems like, honestly, that everything has broken loose here. It's a long green flag run. These drivers, they're finding their space out there, so the race at this point will be relatively calm. But then you have the 99, Philip Scott, who is now being scored one lap down. So far, he's led by far the most laps of anyone here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Beer Street Journal 200. John Cannizzaro Jr. trying to add to his tally, trying to run down Philip Scott for the most laps led. But then you have drivers like the 54 machine, Matt Cherry, who also pitted the same lap as Chris Darling. Then you have Nick Kessler back a little ways. He pitted a lap after the 54 and the number 11. Adam Newton is a ways back. He pitted on the same lap as Kessler. And then back behind Adam Newton, you got Jason Gracias. There is Gracias racing with the number 99 to Philip Scott, who sits one lap down in the lucky dog position as they run, I do believe. But Gracias is exactly where he needs to be, to kind of default to win the title. But I just can't believe that we've been green flag for this opening stint, because we, going back to what I was talking about, there was just so many accidents in practice. They really calmed things down and figured out how to race these trucks.
Yeah, Peter, he is doing what he needs to do, but he's kind of right on the edge. And this is actually the truck I wanted to talk about, the 971 of Nathan Maurer, of course, but really that number 4 machine, that black and blue truck with the yellow numbers. We talked about Ben Mashburn coming in to pit road with Matt Cherry, right, side by side. Somehow the 4 lost 8 seconds to Matt Cherry since that occurred, because they were side by side coming on pit road. Now Ben Mashburn almost 9 seconds behind Matt Cherry, so a not great pit stop cycle for that number 4 machine, as he has lost a ton of track position now, and now really trying to kind of battle for the remaining in the top 10. Is if he gets behind that 51, at that 51 of Adam Licht, he manages to pass him, he'll be down to 9th position, where he was in the top 5 before those pit stops occurred. Of course, that was only 10, 12, 13 laps ago. So not a great pit stop cycle for the 4 Ben Mashburn, but he's still in the top 10 and still chugging along in that number 4 machine. And a good run by Adam Lichty as well. Started 14th, now running in 9th position. Back up front, the 11 of Chris Darling at a tire deficit, not really losing touch with John Cannizzaro. We know that 12 machine typically has a lot better short run pace than he necessarily has long run pace relative to those guys running at the front. I think Jason Grazzi is a really good balance of the two, and then Chris Darling typically sacrifices a little bit of short run pace for long run pace, although we have seen him step it up in those longer runs. But some interesting stuff going on. I was really wondering, given the 11 didn't necessarily gap the trucks around him that he pitted a lap earlier, than if he was going to be able to hold on tires-wise. But, Peter, I'm pretty impressed with this 11 and how he's managing his stuff and still keeping in contact with the 12.
Yeah, we saw the 11 have a really good, strong first green flag run, Drew, and that tells us that he's figured out how to save tires here at Atlanta here tonight in that Taz Racing Customs F-150. So I wonder if that was kind of his game plan. You know, he knew he had one lap older tires than everyone around him. Just save those tires. You know, you don't have to lead every single lap. You just have to lead the last lap. And so I wonder if as this run progresses, as we get closer to around lap 70 to 75 or so, assuming we stay green flag, whether or not Chris Darling will put the fight back to John Cannizzaro Jr. Meanwhile, since we're getting close, folks, to the halfway distance here tonight, they're really clicking off these laps very quickly, as we'll watch this battle for the third position between Matt Cherry and Nick Kessler. I do want to make mention that Beer Street Journal, if you haven't checked it out yet, some very interesting news recently between Monster Energy and the craft beer scene as Matt Cherry gets out of shape out of turn number 4. And caution flag number 1 coming out for the first time here tonight. We'll put a pin in that BeerStreetJournal.com story. But let's figure out what all happened here to bring out the first caution flag of the night. Philip Scott will get back on the lead lap. That will be good news. Let's see what happened here involving the number 2 machine, Justin White. He's the third truck in line here, Drew. And, contact with Travis White. The Whites get together, causing the yellow flag. 2 Whites make a yellow. I don't think anyone said that before, but the 2 of Justin White looks like he doesn't have any significant damage somehow, some way, and just goes for a spin there, Drew.
Somehow, Peter, the contact going into the corner resulted in more damage than the wall contact. I think that this was a misjudgment by the 2. I don't think the 2 knew that the 23 was underneath him and then made him move himself right there. And then that's what turns the 2 around going into the corner. In real life, I think the spotter would tell you 23 looking, 23 there. But the iRacing spotter is not really up to snuff with that stuff. And I think that that's exactly what happened with the 2. Just kind of a small misjudgment. I don't think that there's a ton of damage. Here we go. We'll see the 4 of Ben Mashburn gets a little loose out of 2, which you see right there. Costs him a little momentum. The 2 starts closing. The 23 makes a move, and then the 2 starts to make a move. Doesn't realize the 23 is there, and around he goes just right there with the right rear. Kisses the outside wall. I think the 2 is probably going to be able to get all that damage fixed on pit road. Shouldn't have any real lasting pace impacts. But this will likely really change the dynamics of this race because the field had just really strung out so much, Peter, that it was going to be a big challenge for guys like Jason Gracias, just thinking of championship implications, to work their way back up towards the front. But this kind of resets the race for him, and it kind of resets the strategy. They should only, Peter, have to make one more stop? Do you think they can squeeze one more stop out of this thing?
Yeah, we'll have one more stop here tonight, likely coming around lap number 95 to 105, somewhere kind of in that realm. So these drivers should be good to go, and just one more stop. But caution flag number 1 here in the Beer Street Journal 200. And one thing that we do here, give out the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, and it goes to Philip Scott, who had that pit lane refueling mishap. He will be able to get himself back into the lead pack. I'm sure he'll be very excited about that. And Brookstone Animal Hospital, believe it or not, is located in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, so it's fitting to give out the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. If you're in the Atlanta area and watching us here tonight on 3 Wide TV, make sure you check out Brookstone Animal Hospital as Philip Scott takes his tires and gets back down and away. We'll be restarting in the 16th position, but that's a lot better than being a lap down. Speaking of a lap down, Jason Chu, Jeffrey Johnson Jr., both a lap down. Fred Lester also being scored a couple of laps down in the number 48 truck. There he is down by the inside wall on the backstretch, and not sure if there's something up with that Chevy Silverado, or maybe he's just letting a couple of drivers on by, and so he can rejoin the back end of the field. That's kind of the more likely scenario. Pace car lights continuing to twinkle, but looks like we might be doubling up here, Drew, for an upcoming restart. It'll be the first restart of the night.
Yeah, and again, kind of a full reset for these guys. The number 88 machine and Nick Kessler leading. The number 11, 12, and 54 machines are our front four. And Jason Gracias running in 7th, of course. The 11, the number 12, the 971, and Nathan Maurer, who is in 6th position. I need to not skip him as well. Of course, Nathan Maurer, Peter. Of course, the 971 machine is running in 6th position on lap 62 out of 134, given he qualified in 18th. And he's, of course, running up front. The Matt Kenseth of NSRA. I'm not sure if Nathan would view that as a compliment or not. Kenseth, of course, tending to become a very polarizing figure in his last few years in NASCAR, especially racing a number $20 general scheme in Martinsville a few years back at this point. But here at NSRA, one thing that's been fantastic is there's not really, I don't know if you can auditorily pick up that knock on my metaphoric desk made of wood, that there has been some fantastic clean racing between our championship contenders, and just really respectful but hard racing between those guys. Huge commendment for them regarding that, as we are now back under green. The 88 of Nick Kessler leading the 11 of Chris Darling. We're going to see if that bottom lane can work on this restart, as the 88 did not get a very clean entry into turn 1, now fading up the track. Chris Darling back to the race lead.
Yeah, I do want to make mention that Nick Kessler did not come down pit road or take on any tires there under that last pit stop. He's now falling well back in the field. Jason Gracias, Nathan Maurer, first side-by-side battle right now between a couple of our championship contenders. The 971, 34 points tonight behind the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias at the drop of the green flag. Of course, Maurer hoping that maybe Jason Gracias gets a little bit of bad luck here over the final 80 laps or so of tonight's final race of the season. Side-by-side battle a little bit further back. Travis White, who was just involved in that last accident, drew hopefully not a whole lot of damage on the sim box. Number 23, he's on the high side of Ben Mashburn, now looking to go around the outside of Adam Leichty there in the number 51 machine, the Harpoon design number 51, as they're now side by side between the Simbox Racing teammates Travis White and Nathan Maurer. Some good racing here after this recent caution flag, this first restart of the night, as the field now starts to get a little bit strung out. But how about Stan Hausman, Drew? He started well back in the field, and Ben Mashburn's in the outside wall. The number 4 machine, the Chester's F-150, and that will give Stan Hausman another position, move him up to 9th.
Yeah, and some misfortune by the number 4 machine going in to turn 3 right there. We'll have to see exactly what happened to that Chester's Ford F-150 going down the backstretch. Nothing amiss, as typically there is not as you're driving in a straight line. Oh yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there. Do you think he maybe misjudged the entry, maybe got a little bit loose as soon as he's starting to put wheel in? That's kind of a peculiar place, given no real opportunity for contact. That would have been a massive netcode incident had that been netcode, but that was kind of peculiar there, Pete.
Yeah, a lot of right side damage to the number 4 of Ben Mashburn. That is such a shame for a driver who's been having so far a really good night here tonight, battling with Vincent Valvano in the number 64 machine. But yeah, Drew, I think he just misjudged this safer barrier right about there. You kind of see how it jumps out at you, and I think he just misjudged its position on entry into the corner. He's probably focusing on several of the trucks around him. He loses that spot to Vincent Valvano now, as Valvano is going to pull up into the 10th position and just pancake the right side of his machine. Up towards the front, side-by-side battle right now for the second position. Matt Cherry in the 54, believe it or not, has gotten himself up to the front of the field here on lap number 69. We got this nice battle for the second spot as the 11 and the 12 getting really close in turn number 3 and 4.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was alluding to last race with Cannizzaro is when you don't necessarily have as much to lose as those that you're racing with, you can kind of put them in positions that they might not like, but ultimately, if there's a wreck, there's no real harm done for your championship because you're not really super in it unless you win it, but it would really harm their championship prospects, and I think that's what Cannizzaro is doing, especially on entry. He's really racing that 11 up the track, making sure that Chris can't get the optimal entry into the corner, which is, I mean, I think the 11 is going to be quicker over the longer run if what we've seen thus far continues to hold up here tonight, but it's just not allowing Chris Darling to get a clean entry and to get that thing turned down the track. As you saw, the 12 was able to run him up on entry and then cut that thing towards the bottom right down to that white line through center off, and here we go. Now the 11 was able to clear him, but the 29, that was incredibly kind by the 29 machine. I would not have let out of the gas if I were Adam Newton in that Budweiser F-150. He gave the 12 a huge break as Cannizzaro just chopped his nose on entry, and that is, I would say, not necessarily a wise decision, especially, again, for guys who aren't really racing for anything other than grabbing a race win here tonight. The 29's not going to tangibly improve his points in a noticeable way, even if he gains positions. I mean, if you're not really running for the championship, who cares really where you finish in the points? It's all about those stats and those race finishes, and 29 was very kind right there, as now Chris Darling sets his sights on running down Matt Cherry, who, I mean, has had some moments tonight, Peter, as he seems to do every race, but now is running some good solid paces. Ben Mashburn, Peter, besides that massive impact into the wall, he's only running in 12th position now, battling Adam Dama to try to maintain that 12th, but that's not horrible given that pretty significant contact he had with that outside wall.
Yeah, but he's slowly slipping his way down through the field. I'm sure he's hoping to see a caution flag. He just hopes he's not the caution flag so he can come get some of that damage repaired on the right side of that truck. Justin White is back behind him. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in the number 33 New Edge Auto Detailing Ford F-150 running right now in 15th. Doug Milliner running in the 16th spot. Then Jason Shu rounding out 17th. And Nick Kessler, remember, Drew, did not take tires, did not take fuel. But right now, Nick Kessler finds himself probably about 15 to 20 laps away from absolutely needing to come down onto pit road. In fact, I think I said the pit window was about 85 to 92 laps or so. So he's got maybe 10 to 15 laps on fuel left. We'll see how that works out for Nick Kessler. He's going to be hoping to see a caution, but there has been a severe lack of the yellow flag waving here tonight, as we've only had one caution in the opening 75 laps here tonight. This race clicking by ever so quickly. Up at the front of the field, Matt Cherry in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series started off this chase with a win at Daytona. Very, very cool to have him join the chase after Jeff Price realized he had an operation, wasn't able to participate in the chases. Looks like Matt Cherry is now under fire from Chris Darling. Darling wanting to get back up to the front. We've seen him lead a couple of laps so far here tonight, and looks like he will complete that pass off turn number 4, although Matt Cherry still kind of has a little bit of a bumper on the side of the Taz Racing Customs 11. Now I think Darling's got him. Will Matt Cherry do the over-under? We'll see right here as they head down the backstretch.
Yeah, the 11 just taking that position on the exit of 2. Darn near clearing himself there, but this is kind of what the 11 was kind of biding his time, saving his stuff for, is to try to run that 54 down, who we know is quick, and the same with John Cannizzaro. We know they're quick. It's the 11 tends to just be a little bit better on tires over the long run, which is what we're seeing here now, as the 54 tries to cut it underneath. You're just trying to show your nose as the 54 just sliding once again, no big surprise there is, the 39 of Stan Hausman. Yeah, I was about to point that out, Peter. Stan Hausman, even more sideways off of turn 2, and quite frankly, probably just does that less than Matt Cherry, who's just kind of seems to deal with it on a regular basis. No big dramas. It looks like he's about to wreck all the time, but he just manages to get the thing back under control. But this is exactly what Chris Darling really wants to see, is those guys racing side by side, separating themselves from Chris Darling, giving himself a little bit of breathing room, which he has just a little bit right here, right now, as now the number 29 of Adam Newton looking to gain third position.
Yeah, Adam Newton has closed in on Matt Cherry. Cherry has actually won 2 of the 5 races so far in the chase, but unfortunately had things go a little bit awry back at Homestead, and had an okay result at North Wilkesboro. But if it wasn't for Homestead Miami, I definitely think we'd be talking about Matt Cherry as a possible championship contender after that win at Daytona and Auto Club Speedway last week right here on 3Wide TV. If you missed that race, it was honestly, Drew, one of the best finishes I think we've ever had here on 3Wide TV. 3-wide battle. There was some lap traffic right at the end of the race, but it was one mighty intense battle. And speaking of a battle, we now have a 3-way battle as Jason Gracias has joined the mix here in this battle for third between Cherry, Newton, and himself. Gracias trying to stick to that low line. Can he clear Newton out of turn number 3? Definitely cannot. Back there, you're starting to see the blue machine, the number 99 of Philip Scott. Got that lap back courtesy of our friends over at Brookstone Animal Hospital. He's worked his way up into the 9th position, so good job there for Philip Scott, trying to work his way back towards the front of the field. He was the early race leader until a green flag pit stop went awry. If you're just now joining us, great job by Philip Scott to race his way back up through the field. Just got around Stan Hausman when Hausman got loose out of turn number 2. And he'll have his sights now set on Travis White up in front of him. But Drew, these 3 right here, the number 1, the 54, and the 29, kind of seem to be kind of going back and forth, although I would put money on the number 1 right now. He seems like he has the most momentum. Got around the 29, now looking for third, which I think would be the highest we will have seen Jason Gracias all night long.
Yeah, this caution just seems like the reprieve that the number 1 really needed to kind of just make sure that the track position wasn't going to be a problem for him. Of course, if he finishes in third, it does not matter what the rest of the field does. Nathan Maurer turned by the 51 machine of Adam Lichty into the outside wall. One of our championship contenders, heavy contact into the outside wall. And I got to imagine for the 971 who just can't get it straight, that's going to be a big hamper regarding his championship efforts are concerned as he comes across the radio, and I'm sure is not too happy with that, though I do have my sounds turned down just enough. Looks like the 51 of Adam Lichty trying to go to the inside. Oh, yeah, he just misjudges it, Peter. I think he kind of overcorrects with that lunge to the inside, and then boom, the 971. Heavy damage, and I would assume Mr. Maurer would not be too happy with that. But, Peter, do you pit here? I don't think you can make it from here, but this should be your last set of tires.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting call. Nick Kessler might be the lucky person in all of this. We'll get back to that in just a second as you got one more look of that 971 machine. But remember, Drew, Nick Kessler in that number 88 machine, he did not pit under that last caution flag. John Cannizzaro Jr., he's not going to pit under this caution flag. How about that? A lot of drivers coming down. Matt Cherry's on pit road. Chris Darling, Justin White, Ben Mashburn there. He's coming in, I'm sure, to get some of the damage fixed as well. Adam Lichty on pit road. There's the number 6 of Doug Milliner. There's Stan Hausman on pit road. Well, we had a little bit of a mixed bag because Cannizzaro stays out. Gracias stays out. Newton stays out, Philip Scott stays out, Vincent Valvano stays out. Your top 5 all staying out. But this driver right here, Nick Kessler, is in an interesting position, Drew. The whole reason I say that is because he still has, he's going to put on fresh tires here, but he still has a fresh set of tires on pit road. So if we have a caution flag, here in the final 50 or so laps, which it seems like we're averaging one every 40 or so laps at this point. Nick Kessler could be in a really good position. Cannizzaro and a couple of others also getting an extra set because they're staying out under this caution. But Kessler will be able to leave a lot of those drivers in the dust because you have to remember Nick Kessler had, maybe 15 or so laps on his tires, Drew, when that last caution stayed out. When he stayed out. Now, the likes of a couple of drivers, as Vincent Valvano's coming down pit road this time. Chris Darling's coming back down pit road, maybe to top off with fuel, just hoping to get to the end here. He might also be thinking, Drew, that he's on his final set of tires as he locks up the tires coming into his pit box. And perhaps, maybe, well, no, I say that, he's taking on tires. So I don't know what Chris Darling is exactly doing there. But he's going to get back rolling. So not sure if he just wanted to top off with fuel and waited to pit, but he's headed back out there onto the racetrack. There's Cannizzaro, though. He's your race leader. He stayed out. So mixed strategies. We're just going to have to wait and see how this all winds up here in the Beer Street Journal 200 because guess what? Jason Gracia's in the number one, Drew. He stayed out. He's trying to win a championship.
My apologies for stepping on you again. I have to assume the 11 didn't take tires in that pit stop beforehand. I think, I'm seeing him jacked up. I don't know because he shouldn't have that change of tires, right? So maybe it's a weird spectator thing. Of course, we're both spectating this race where sometimes iRacing does some wonky stuff. I can't imagine that he was able to take two sets of tires there, given they only have, unless that was just a huge strategy gaffe. And now the 11 certainly doesn't have any tires left, but I can't imagine that that's the case. I got to imagine that there's some kind of weird spectator error. But one thing I'm really confused with, Peter, is yes, this number one machine is starting in second position, but why wouldn't you just mirror Chris Darling's strategy? The 971, it's incredibly unlikely that he's going to be able to continue to battle for this championship given the damage that he incurred in that last caution. So quite frankly, the 12 isn't who you're competing against. The 12 has to win, and the 1 would have to essentially DNF at this point. So why not just mirror what that 11 machine's doing? Because he's the only guy that you're really racing with at this point. That would be what I would think of if I were both driving that number 1 and crew chiefing that number 1 off the pit box. Is I would just mirror your championship competitors because they have to beat you significantly. Not by a little bit, but significantly. So don't give them the opportunity that the 11 has right now. If this thing goes green, I don't see how the 11 necessarily doesn't really win the championship. But, hey, who knows what's going to happen? We're on lap 87 of 134. About a third of the race is here to go, over a third. So we have a ton of racing left. John Cannizzaro leading the field off of turn 4. Ooh, a lot of wheel spin out of the 12. A lot of wheel spin. Oh, that's going to be a huge wreck. A huge wreck on the restart. I think Chris Darling gets through it. I can't quite tell. That was massive.
A huge wreck on the restart. It looked like Darling was going to be able to sneak on through. It all started with Adam Newton. Let's see if we can get a look at this one from the 3-wide TV blimp cam, because I think that's the only way we're going to get to see all what happened here. Let's see if the starter cam has a good look. The starter might have a good look at this one. There's the wheel spin out of number 29. Goes up into the wall. Adam Leichty, Adam Dama getting involved. Oh, look at the 11 of Darling squeaking on through. That could have been a whole lot worse, Drew. But the 51 machine, Adam Leichty, Adam Newton, Adam Dama. Not a good wreck for the Adams right there.
Yeah, a whole lot of wrecking going on. That 51, man, woo, did he get some airtime right here now. We're riding on board with the 29. The 1 of Gracias lit these things up. And again, old tires on a restart. This is what happens. The 1 lights him up. You see that the 29 gets even more sideways into the outside wall and actually gets stuck in the outside wall there, Peter. And then kind of, I don't necessarily think he made any contact with anyone else. It was everyone else also having wheel spin on this restart with these old tires. As once again, guys playing games on these restarts, bunching it up. You see wheel spin, 23 with the wheel spin. Oh, yeah, no, the 51, I guess, did make contact right there. And then the 28 just has nowhere to go. But some pretty massive hits going on right there is, once again, we'll be running on board with the 51, who I think has the most spectacular kind of part of this. See the 29. Oh, boom. Massive airtime. The whole rear gets lit up. The 23 sideways, the 4 sideways. And somehow, quite frankly, Peter, there weren't more trucks involved in this.
I think it's actually a saving grace that Adam Newton got stuck into the outside wall, because had he ping-ponged back across the racetrack, I think we would have seen a lot more drivers involved. That's Chris Darling squeaking his way on through that collision right there. And now we'll have to see what all is happening out there on the racetrack. There is the heavily damaged number 29 machine of Adam Newton after that incident just a moment ago. John Cannizzaro Jr. stays out there on the racetrack, and interestingly, Drew, this is extremely interesting. The number 12 of John Cannizzaro Jr. is the only driver not to come down pit road. A couple of drivers did come back down pit road, including the number 1 of Jason Gracias. So Gracias came down, took 4 fresh tires. He saw what happened on that restart. He said, oh, I'm not going to play with that at all. So Gracias comes down pit road. Now I have to say, this is, in my opinion, Drew, a huge advantage for this driver right here, Nick Kessler, in the Taz Racing Customs Chevy Silverado. If it is true that a majority of the field just took tires, I believe Nick Kessler is the only driver in the entire field that still has a fresh set of tires. We got 45 laps right now left here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. That's just huge. Any caution that Nick Kessler can come down, get a fresh set of tires, it will be lights out. He will just run away with this race, that's for sure. Just needs an extra caution between now. Probably would be best if it came out with, maybe 20 laps to go or something like that, Drew. Comes down, gets a fresh set of tires. He's going to be Lightning McQueen, race his way back through the field, and eventually possibly walk away with a win. But we'll need a few things to go his way.
Yeah, so you got to balance this, though, Peter. If there's another caution on this restart, that doesn't help the 88. If there's a caution with 5 to go, that doesn't necessarily help the 88. No, don't get me wrong. He's in a better strategy. He's on the same tire strategy as the 11 with an extra set and in front of him as well. So, no, I agree. It's a great option that the 88 has available to him right now, and he's not racing for a championship. So again, he can play this kind of more creative strategy call because he just has a lot less to lose. He's just trying to go and grab a race victory here tonight, compared to the 12 starting to his outside, compared to the 11 starting behind him, compared to the 1 starting a couple rows back, several rows back actually. I think this also, as far as championship stuff is concerned, played into Chris Darling's hand because he changed tires. Now, one thing, Peter, I kind of missed. Did John Cannizzaro take tires on that last restart, or is he still on the old tires?
John Cannizzaro Jr. last pitted on lap number 60. He is on 30 lap old tires right now, but did take tires on lap number 60. So I guess I take back what I say about Nick Kessler. John Cannizzaro Jr.'s also still got a fresh set of tires, but for Cannizzaro, he's going to have to deal with 30 lap old tires here on this restart. We're going to have to watch him for wheel spin because the iRacing pace car lights are off. It heads off the racetrack, and the race is in the hands of Cannizzaro. There's that wheel spin. That's the wheel spin we were talking about, and Nick Kessler is going to beat him to a line. Hopefully that's not an iRacing penalty, but here comes the herd. Here comes Chris Darling looking to the inside of Nick Kessler as they head towards turn number 1, and Darling's got it back up to the front. And as of right now, with everything else changing on back, Jason Gracias sits in the 7th position, right where he needs to be to walk away with a possible title. But now, this whole pack are going to be fighting tooth and nail all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, but that is exactly what the 11 needed to see of Chris Darling. The question is how does the rest of this play out? Where does the number 1 of Jason Gracias come through? Of course, he is in 6th position, which is probably where he needs to finish, though he has not led a lap to my knowledge. And the 11, of course, has that bonus point, which will probably be a not insignificant factor if this race plays out and a completely non-chaotic way, as quite a bit of racing right here. The 88, the 6, the 99, possibly taking it 3 wide on the front stretch. I think the 6 is going to back out right there. He does, of Doug Milner, as the 99, Philip Scott, is able to grab that position. The 88, Peter, he can't be on fresh tires either. I can't imagine with the way that 88's falling back. Yeah, he did a little bit better than the 12 machine did, but does the 88 now have 2 sets of tires? Because I don't think he pitted this last time.
The 88 pitted on lap number 84. He pitted with Chris Darling and company, not this last caution, but the caution before. So he still has just 1 set of tires on pit road, we do believe. So we'll see if that holds true. Chris Darling, though, is your race leader, but Philip Scott, remember that name, Drew, from the start of the race, fell 1 lap down, got the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, who I believe under this most recent caution, it went to Fred Lester in the number 48, so we'll give a shout out to Brookstone Animal Hospital and them handing out the Lucky Dog Award. There's a link in the description of the video. But Philip Scott battling for second. Yes, he's back on the lead lap. He's been as low as the 17th position here tonight, and he is now back up into, well, I was going to say he was going to be back up into second, but Matt Cherry with a huge run around the outside is going to clear the 99 down the back stretch, so take that back. Everything I said. Scott's still in third, but he's going to have to race with a lot of these cars around him, and Drew, you and I know, racing hard just wears your tires very, very quickly.
And it gives the truck in front of you, of course, in this case being the 11 of Chris Darling, our race leader, just extra breathing room. Not only are you wearing your stuff out, these trucks with old tires, is the 12 of John Canizaro faded to 11th position. And this is a big risk this 12 is taking, Peter, is he's going to be a lot slower. So this last time by, the 11 of Chris Darling ran a 31.8. The 12, I clicked on the wrong truck, of course, ran a 33 flat, over a second a lap slower. It only is going to take, about 20 laps-ish for that 11 of Chris Darling to be hounding the back of that 12. And I got to imagine that, quite frankly, his tire wear is going to exponentially increase as his tires are really old at this point, over 30 laps on those things. Versus Chris Darling, of course, really not having put one green flag lap on his tires before this restart. But now he has the 99 to deal with as Philip Scott passed the number 54. And what we saw earlier in this race, Peter, was that number 99 had just about as much pace as anybody, if not was the outright quickest truck on track. And he has a little bit of a tire advantage on Chris Darling, so that 11 is going to have to give it all he's got to try to keep this race lead. Otherwise, his championship hopes probably dashed.
Yep, that number 99, like you said, just a slight tire advantage by about 3 laps. That's really all it was, and most of that was under caution, minus that brief green flag that we had before we all stacked him up here on the front stretch. But Philip Scott back to the race lead on lap number 100. What a recovery it has been for him, but they almost make contact out of turn number 2. Just a paper between those two, a piece of paper. And I tell you what, Drew, this is just like the racing we've seen all season long here in the National Sim Racing Association. Good, tight, hard racing up at the front of the field and through the entire field. It has been it's been a wonderful season, absolutely wonderful. And they get close again in turn number 1 and 2. These two just duking it out. I'm sure maybe a little bit too close for comfort. At least it'd be too close for comfort if it was me in those two trucks. And Darling gets back to the inside. They almost make contact again, Drew. This is, I think, Stay Tuned Sports in the chat saying this is some exciting chase racing. That is for sure.
Yeah, and I got to think that maybe the 11 took some notes from John Canizaro when they were racing side by side earlier in the race, when he was forcing Chris Darling up the track a little bit when they were racing side by side. I think the 11, contact between the number 11 and 99, Chris Darling. into the side of Philip Scott. Will that bring out a caution? It does not. That is not ideal for Chris Darling. No caution. So now he just lost all his track position, and Matt Cherry's going to assume the race lead as the number 99 and 11 make contact at a turn 2. Exactly what happens here. Does the 99 come down? Does the 11 go up? Is it netcode? Oh, I think the 99 comes down just a little bit there, Peter. And the 11 certainly didn't give him much room, but I don't think he thought the 99 would come down at all. And that's exactly what happened. The 11, quite honestly, got away with it pretty scot-free, as did the 99. But, until that last little bit where the 99 got into the inside wall. But, I mean, that's just kind of the game the number 11 was playing there, Peter, and those are the consequences when you play those games.
Yeah, you see that contact right there. I know Philip Scott will probably be like, well, if I just had a little bit more room there, Chris, we wouldn't have made contact. And I'm sure Chris will be saying kind of the same thing, but conversely, as Darling has now slid back into the 8th position. Matt Cherry has assumed the race lead. How about this driver right here, Drew? Doug Milliner. We were talking about his Mark Martin Folgers throwback. And Doug Milliner and his good old underwear emporium, he might need a new pair of underwear after getting through a couple of these accidents around him here tonight. But the Folgers F-150 is now up into second. How cool would it be to see Doug Milliner as he hits the wall? He must be listening to the broadcast because the broadcasters are jinxing him, that's for sure. Gets into the wall, lots of right side damage. But how about this? Stan Hausman from Atlanta, Georgia, just snuck his way up into second after that kerfuffle. Pretty good run for the BearStreetJournal.com machine and the BearStreetJournal.com 200 here tonight to wrap up the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series season. And speaking of BearStreetJournal.com, I do want to make mention, I talked about this earlier before the first caution flag came out, that Monster Energy and their parent company has actually just purchased Canarchy, that owns the Oscar Blues, Cigar City Brewing, which I love Cigar City Brewing, located down there in the Tampa, Florida area. Perrin Brewing, Deep Ellum, which is located up here in the Dallas area. Squatters and Wasatch Brewing. So Monster Energy, parent company, now owns beer, and Drew might be seeing Monster Energy beer. That would be an interesting thing. Maybe a Monster Energy Shandy. I've never liked the idea of combining Red Bull as a mixer, personally, just because of, all of the heart things. But maybe Monster Energy is going to try and cash in on that somehow, some way. We'll have to wait and see. But that's kind of the big news. You can read up more about it on BearStreetJournal.com. But Stan Hausman up into second right now, trying to run down Matt Cherry, who's looking for his 3rd win in the last 5 races. How about that, Drew?
Yeah, Peter. I'm a big Oscar Blues brewery fan. I love IPAs. Between Oscar Blues and New Belgium, I don't think there's kind of a bigger brewery that does IPAs. Maybe Stone, but Stone's not quite to their level. I sound incredibly pretentious right now, I understand. But I'm a big IPA fan. I love Oscar Blues, the New Belgium Blue Ranger stuff, the Stone IPAs. They're all fantastic. I have been known, especially in my younger, wilder days, to have a Red Bull vodka when going out late at night, maybe early in the morning. Those days are kind of beyond me. It's been a while since I've had one of those. But, you're kind of challenging your heart for its ability to continue to pump blood through your body when you take one of those. But the number one certainly is his heart's racing, but not stopping as he is racing Stan Hausman for that 2nd position. And Peter, you mentioned Doug Milliner. You mentioned Stan Hausman. Those are the 2 guys that stick out right now. Ben Mashburn recovering into a top 5 as well, with the 4 having that significant contact earlier on. But I got to say, the 4 is also a great looking scheme. But the number 39 is probably my favorite truck in the field, with the contrast between the black and the white, and then, of course, the beer on the bottom of that truck, as well as, Ben Mashburn, that sideways is Chris Darling looking to recover right here after, quite frankly, what I thought was going to be a disastrous result for the number 11 machine. And he's recovering quite nicely if he can get back by this 4 as he makes a move to the inside into turn 1. And I thought the 11's tires would be toasted as the 12 of John Canizzaro's strategy not paying off, now having to come onto pit road. And I think this is likely championship over for this 12 machine. And this certainly seems, Peter, like the door is opening on Jason Grassi, is able to start feeling a little bit more comfortable as this goes on.
Yeah, that is for sure. Just right now, looking at the pit window, we think that perhaps a few drivers might be able to stretch it all the way on fuel. We're not 100% sure if everyone can stretch it to the end of the race. Some drivers will have to go near on 50 laps. We saw 46 laps, I believe, the longest run that we've had here tonight. But we did have some caution laps earlier, so that should help. I think maybe very close on the pit window for a couple of drivers, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not we see any more green flag pit stops in the final 22 laps here of the Beer Street Journal 200, as Jason Gracias pulls a move on the BeerStreetJournal.com 39 of Stan Hausman. Hausman now coming back underneath Gracias to try and take that spot back, but to no avail. Garrett Gleason in the chat is rooting on the number one of Jason Gracias here tonight. Garrett saying he's a bit under the weather. Garrett, hopefully you start to feeling better there, buddy. And hopefully we can get you back up here in the 3-wide TV booth here fairly soon. I think that is on the cards at some point to have Garrett alongside as the Beer Street Journal number 39 gets a little bit loose out of turn number 2. And of course, speaking of Beer Street Journal, of course, Garrett was alongside for the BeerStreetJournal.com Grand National Series that we wrapped up just a couple of weeks ago here on the channel. Still getting a few dropped frames every once in a while, folks, here. If you're watching the broadcast live, I do apologize for that, but if you're watching on demand, you should not see any issues, as those files and frames should eventually get uploaded to the YouTube cloud. But now, Drew, looks like Darling has gotten around Ben Mashburn. He's back up into 4th, not exactly where he'd want to be, with the whole point situation, but could definitely be worse. Like you said, I kind of thought he wouldn't even have a chance after getting all that front end damage with that contact with Philip Scott, who is still on the lead lap, still turning laps, being scored in the 14th position, which is a huge shame because we were just hyping his great recovery from being a lap down, and low down is 17th, but he's still chugging away out there.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Scott, certainly, I think both he and Chris Darling wish they could, replay that in your mind. I think we all have races where we're battling for the race lead late in a race, and stuff doesn't quite go our way, and we wish we could have kind of redone how that whole thing went down. And I'm sure the 99 wishes he could have done a little differently. I mean, I don't know that there's much he could have done. The 11 just wasn't giving him any room, and I don't necessarily think Chris Darling regrets what he did. I just think both of them regret the outcome. I think that's what Chris Darling had to do, being at a little bit of a tire disadvantage and probably a little bit of a pace disadvantage. He had to race the 99 like that in order to be able to hold on to that stuff, because quite frankly, he's not in much worse championship shape in 4th position than he would have been in 2nd. Either way, he's probably not going to win the championship unless the 11 basically has a tire blowout, which I don't think we really see in iRacing outside of the 1987 cars, which, speaking of, some exciting news, the Beer Street Journal Series is going to be racing those 1987 cars. I know I certainly will be participating here in the upcoming weeks. So if you're interested, of course, check out their Twitter, check out their Discord. Please come along. It's going to be a fantastic ride with those guys. I mean, to me, Peter, the 87 cars, along with, quite frankly, the new Cup package, the new Cup car, the next Gen 7, whatever you want to call it, those are the 2 best oval racing cars, in my opinion, in the service right now. So exciting stuff. I am so excited for that 87 series. As much fun as I occasionally had in the previous Beer Street Journal series, it's going to be even better from a driving perspective in the new 87 cars. But out front, we have Matt Cherry, Jason Gracias, and Stan Hausman, 1, 2, 3. Matt Cherry, though, not without pressure. Jason Gracias now pressuring the back of that number 54 Stay Tuned Sports machine.
Yeah, and you see right down there at the bottom of the screen, Gracias has been faster over the last couple of laps, anywhere from just a fraction of a second to up to 2/10 that last time by. So Gracias definitely showing his late race muscle. How many times have we seen that this season? Gracias has 4 wins in this season, trying to make that 5 on the night, and considering he's only made 14 starts so far, that is mighty impressive, and still trying to work that inside again at about a 10th.5 faster that last lap as these two continue to battle. We'll see whether or not this can pull Stan Hausman back up to the front as Gracias has a big wiggle down there on the inside. He will have to regroup as he slides in behind Matt Cherry, and I know we got some Matt Cherry fans in the chat here tonight. We got Stay Tuned Sports rooting on the Stay Tuned Sports podcast with Jimbo Ford F-150. Trying to make it 3 wins late in the season there, Jimbo, for you. And I know Matt Cherry is very appreciative of having Stay Tuned Sports on the hood of his machine here tonight. And we will see whether or not he can get to victory lane. It was a thrilling finish last week, and Drew, could be another thrilling finish this week.
Yeah, Matt Cherry doing a fantastic job here tonight, as is Jason Gracias, because the number one, I don't think at any point in this entire session here tonight at Atlanta has the number one been fastest. He wasn't quickest in practice. He wasn't the quickest in qualifying, and he has not, quite frankly, been the quickest truck in the race. I think that honor belongs to the number 99 of Philip Scott, but he's done what needs to be done. He's taken his time. He's avoided trouble. He's made conservative but appearingly correct strategy calls. Now, if we have a caution, of course, that will change. But he doesn't have to win tonight, Peter. And that's kind of the more remarkable situation about what's unfolding. The more remarkable fact is that the number one doesn't have to be racing Matt Cherry right now like he is. All he had to do was finish in the top 5. And now, I mean, obviously winning the race will put you in the top 5, but it's just a fantastic job. This is what the one has done so much this year. And yeah, he missed quite a few races. But it's not just been about outright pace. It's about racing smart. And it's smart yet conservative, not putting yourself in a position to where you're going to finish first or last, that you're going to get good finishes in the top 3, 4, 5, even despite the mistakes that he's made at races like Daytona and various other races where I don't think he's finished where he's run. The one has just been able to finish probably better than they've run at the vast majority of these races. And if he hasn't, he's finished within a couple positions of that and probably within the top 5 or 10. As you mentioned, Peter, only one finish this season outside the top 10. That is a remarkable statistic.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And trying to get his 5th win of the season as Matt Cherry has a big wiggle out of turn number 2, able to keep the 4 wheels underneath him. Boy, that would be just kind of the most Matt Cherry moment if he was to get wicked loose and lose the race lead like that. Although now Jason Gracias back up on his heels as we come to 8 laps to go, just 12 more miles here. These drivers whipping around the racetrack at 160 plus miles an hour for almost the entire lap. Jason Gracias now to the inside for the race lead. Matt Cherry trying to pick up again his 3rd win in the last 5 events. Did not have a single win, Drew, in the regular season. He was not even eligible to be in the playoffs until Jeff Price had some surgery, and Jeff raced with us last week here in the NSRA, but he had some surgery. Hope all is well with Jeff, so he kind of stepped down from the playoffs, which made Matt Cherry eligible. Kind of gave up his spot to Matt Cherry. He came in, started off with a bang with a win at Daytona, got that win at Auto Club 1 week ago, and we could be looking at another win here tonight if he can keep the wheels underneath it. Again, a little bit of a wiggle from underneath that machine. A little bit further back, Stan Hausman now finds himself about 1.5 seconds behind this battle for the race lead. Chris Darling another 3.5 seconds back. Vincent Valvano having a stellar night in the number 64 machine. I know we got Garrett Gleason in the chat rooting on Vincent here tonight. 5th place right now, running behind the fourth place Chris Darling trying to run him down as well. We'll see what that battle has looked like over the last little bit. Balvano closing in significantly on Chris Darling. Back up to the front of the field, though, side by side again between these two. And Drew, looks like Matt Cherry trying to shut the door on the number 1 machine.
Yeah, racing side by side for the race lead on lap 129 of 34, just 4 laps to go. And Peter, you know, I brought this up several times. I feel like I'm in Office Space beating a dead cop here. But the number 54, a lot less to lose here tonight. Of course, being, I mean, really, in all intents and purposes, out of the championship battle, can race a lot harder than the number 1 is probably willing to race, and can be a lot more defensive, a lot more aggressive, and put the 1 in some compromising positions. As the 12 of Johnny Gannazaro, folks, not on the lead lap, of course, had to make that green flag pit stop, so he is now trying to unlap himself, and that'll be interesting to see if that plays into this race lead battle, as the 54 maybe, got a little loose there from the one packing air under the rear bumper of the 54 machine. Will be interesting to see where does the 12 go through 3 and 4. I think he's going to have to go low. The 54 forced him to go low. And Peter, if anything, I think that gave a little bit of an advantage to Matt Cherry now coming to 3 to go.
3 more laps to go. I agree with you, Drew. Just a little bit of a gap developing there. Now, the reason, folks, that John Cannizzaro wanted to get back on the lead lap is now he doesn't have to use that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog if a caution flag was to come out, because when you get that Lucky Dog, you also get an end of longest line penalty with that. He would not get that end of longest line penalty, and he is on fresher tires. So the win number 12 machine back on the lead lap, but as you can see, well behind this battle for the race lead. 2 more laps to go. Mitchell Adams joining us in the chat, who will be broadcasting the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series in the National Sim Racing Association for all of you folks. Stay tuned for more information for that. Jason Gracias now as close to the back bumper of Matt Cherry as he can be as they enter turn number 1 for the penultimate time tonight. It will be the white flag this time. If we don't see a caution flag, folks, we won't have a Beer Street Journal Grand National, or Grand National, Beer Street Journal last call. It would be the last call for the last call this season, as we're hearing that Fred Lester has run out of fuel. He's on the inside of the racetrack. No caution flag. White flag is in the air, and we will not see a Beer Street Journal last call. We're going to see these two battle it out for the checkers here tonight as they go side by side into turn number 1.
And Peter, if this battle goes horribly for the number 1, the championship is not decided. I mean, it's not surprising, but certainly an aggressive choice as they race side by side going into turn 3, the last lap of the season. Can Matt Cherry hold off the number 1 of Jason Gracias? I anticipate one of those classic Atlanta finishes off of turn 4. The one, though, not able to get to his rear quarter panel. Matt Cherry will take the season finale here at Atlanta in the Beer Street Journal 200.
3 wins in the final 5 races for Matt Cherry, going back-to-back over the series champion. Jason Gracias, the number 1 machine, gets the job done. And local hero Stan Hausman in the BeerStreetJournal.com number 39 machine gonna come home in 3rd. What a great run for that number 39 F-150 here tonight. But we will see dual celebratory burnouts here on the front stretch in the Beer Street Journal 200. I'll tell you what, it has been a fantastic end to the season through only several caution flags here tonight, only a handful, lots of green flag action. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, Drew. I was not expecting a whole lot from Matt Cherry here tonight. He's had some struggles here at Atlanta Motor Speedway with getting loose, getting up into the outside wall. He's done that more than once here, but here tonight, he took that machine to victory lane.
Yeah, as you see, the race winner tonight and our championship champion? That's kind of an awkward wording, but our champion in Jason Gracias, nose-to-nose, kind of weird angle burnout, but nonetheless a nose-to-nose burnout as those trucks kind of continually net code off of each other. But Jason Gracias, our champion. Matt Cherry, as you mentioned, Peter, Not a guy I really anticipated doing well here tonight, given how loose everyone was in practice. I think of Matt Cherry excelling in tracks that everyone else is tight, and he manages to figure out how to drive the trucks in a way that allows him to rotate center off. But Matt Cherry getting it done here tonight, holding off a hard charge in Jason Gracias. But I also got to shout out the rest of our championship contenders. Of course, Chris Darling. I know that he would have wanted to finish higher up, but a top five nonetheless for that number 11 machine, recovering from a fairly dramatic incident with Philip Scott, who also recovers for a 12th position. Nathan Maurer with that massive incident, basically our other main championship contender coming into tonight. He'll finish in 11th. And of course, John Canizaro doing the alternate strategy. He'll bring home 13th.
Yeah, definitely a lot to talk about after this one. And we are going to have a little bit of a lengthy post-race here tonight. And we're going to have to do things a little bit out of order. We're going to talk to Sandhouseman Matt Cherry, and then we're going to talk to some of the championship contenders as we will make sure and see where drivers ended up in the points tally after it was all said and done. We're just waiting to see the league administrators update the point standings after tonight. Let's see if we can get some of those drivers here into the 3-wide TV booth. Drew, why don't you take it away with tonight's third place finisher, driver of the number 39 machine, Stan Houseman.
Mr. Beer Street Journal himself, my favorite scheme in the field, Stan Houseman. You end the night on the podium. Give us a rundown of not only how tonight went, but how your season went as a whole.
Yeah, tonight was kind of finding the line. I'll be 100% honest. I ran behind Jason for a little while there on that last run, and I think that's where I found some speed. For the first couple of runs on the tires, I just could not find a line around here, and some things happened in front of me, and I was able to take advantage of it and found speed when I needed it. Same thing toward the end of the season. Had a good run last week, had a good run on a couple of short tracks leading up. Just had to work got in the way and had to miss a few too many races this year. So disappointed, but with the season, but happy with how we finished it.
Yeah, and Stan, you bring so much to the series with Beer Street Journal and everything. Just tell me what it kind of means to end the season with a podium, given all you contribute to NSRA.
It's huge. Again, I love running this league. The guys who run the league, the admins, you guys broadcasting it. Reed Ramsey, who's the owner of Beer Street Journal, loves gaming and things along those lines, and we've been buddies for forever. So when I presented him with this opportunity, he was very eager to jump on it, and he's ready for things to kind of get a little bit more back to normal, so he can start going to breweries again and interviewing brewmasters and talking about some sim racing too. But just happy with it's good to be on the podium every now and then, not just being also ran from time to time, but home track of Atlanta, telling the guys, it'd be neat to win here, but I'll take third. Jason's been really tough all season, and you know what, Matt at the end of the year, last 3 or 4 races, I don't know if there's been anyone better, especially in the situations that he's been in. I mean, he hasn't just had to win races, he's had to fend off people to win races. So hats off to him for the last 2 races, and obviously hats off to the series champion, Jason, for the season he had.
Absolutely. I tell you what, given your sponsor and Beer Street Journal, I got to give one final recommendation to Mr. Beer Street Journal himself. Austin Beer Works Mega Flora Juicy Double IPA. I think it might be the best. Now I am but I lived in Southern California for a while, where I think some of the best beer in the world is brewed, but it's the best Austin beer I've ever had. But Stan, before we let you go, I know you've given a bunch of shout outs throughout this interview, but let's hear what else do you have to shout out?
Stay tuned sports for coming on and sponsoring the league for the Friday night league. Taz Racing Customs, MaxGrafix, Simbox as well. Doug Neal brings a lot with what he does as well, and you know, Chris Darling for running, the league and overseeing 3 nights of racing, and all the admins, with Justin White and the whole group that puts it together. And obviously, you guys do a fantastic job with the broadcast on 3 Wide TV. Always enjoy watching you guys, no matter where I finish or if I'm racing. So, just can't wait for April to come around and for us to go again.
Thanks so much for talking with us, Stan, and congratulations on your podium. Thanks for a fantastic season. We look forward to start next season whenever that starts up.
Good deal. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you as well.
All right. Well, that's going to do it with Stan Hausman and driver of the number 39 machine. Great run for him here tonight. We are going to jump now to Victory Lane, where the number 54 machine of Matt Cherry has wound up. Matt Cherry, Peter Short, 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I have good news for you. Not only did you win 3 of the final 5 races, but you also pick up 4th position in the final point standings with that win here tonight. Big news for you, and what a strong finish. You really didn't even make the chase, picking up that last spot from Jeff Price there towards the end of the season, but you made the most of it, coming in as the dark horse and walking away 4th place in points. Tell us about tonight first, and then about your season.
Well, the season, it didn't start off so great for us, I was either taking myself out or I was getting caught up in somebody else's wrecks, and, it was just there for the first part of it, it was just terrible for us. And as we was getting closer toward the playoffs to start, we started gaining some momentum, and, technically, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have made the playoffs if Jeff Price wouldn't have been able to make it. But, I wish I could have had this momentum early on.
Well, if you had this moment early on, you definitely would have qualified for the chase. You made a lot of that opportunity. Which of the 3 wins stands out the most to you? I mean, Daytona, Auto Club, or here at Atlanta?
Probably my best performance was probably last week. But, tonight here, Jason, he was definitely faster than me. I knew he wouldn't be able to get around me on the bottom, so, I ran the middle of the track, and I just kept sending it in there. It was harder and harder every lap, and, he was getting closer and closer, and he just couldn't get by me.
Yeah, it was a great battle there at the end of the race, that's for sure, and hopefully we can see more of that Stay Tuned Sports Podcast truck in Victory Lane next season. I know you got some shout-outs to give, so let's hear them.
I'm going to give a shout-out to old Jim for sponsoring this season. Hopefully he'll come back and do it again next season. I want to thank y'all for broadcasting every week. Y'all do a good job.
Well, Matt, we're looking forward to seeing you more next week here, or next season, I should say. Not next week. It's going to be a couple of weeks before we have Friday Night National Sim Racing Association returning back. Stay in line with the 3Y TV Facebook and YouTube pages if you want to watch more National Sim Racing Association after these last couple of races with Matt Cherry and a couple of other people duking it out. It has been very exciting. And Matt, you were on the good end of those battles over the last couple of weeks. Congratulations again. Congratulations on 4th place in points, and we'll see you next season.
All righty. I appreciate it. We'll see y'all.
All right, folks, that's going to do it with our post-race interview with Matt Cherry. Now we're going to go down and see if we can interview, well, I was going to say we can interview the 3rd place finisher in points, Nate Maurer, but I'm not seeing Nate Maurer here in the Discord anymore. So we're just going to jump things over to the runner-up in points, who's caught up with Drew Eisenman. Chris Darling there, Drew.
Hey, Chris, Drew Eisman up here in the 3-Way TV booth. You got a copy?
I got you. No, Drew, go away.
I know. But hey, I mean, you ran your butt off tonight. I know, given your communications in chat with Philip, that didn't go the way you wanted. But kind of give us a rundown of your approach coming into tonight, and then just kind of how your race went down as a whole.
My approach was just I knew I needed to get to the front. I knew that Jason was going to be fast. I mean, he's fast every week. He's a great racer. So basically, my approach was I needed to win. That was the only way I was going to have a chance at a championship. It was a slim chance, but I felt like I put myself up there and did everything I was supposed to do, and just came up short.
And obviously, we saw the contact with Philip. I know you did as well, but we saw the 12 racing you aggressively earlier and essentially putting you in a position where either you gave him room or you wrecked. Did you apply what you learned from your experiences racing with Mr. Cannizzaro to your racing with the 99? What was your mindset kind of when you were racing for the lead late on in the race?
Well, I don't know. They're pretty different situations. I felt like when I was racing John hard, just because I knew he had a lot of pace, and I just felt like the minute one of these guys who had all that pace got past me all night, I just felt like that was pretty much where I was going to be. I wasn't going to be able to get by him again. It's a kind of tricky place to pass, just because all the lanes kind of work there. And I don't know. I kind of saw John forcing me up the corner early on in the corner entry, so I kind of used that a little bit when I was racing Philip, but for the most part, I just wanted to stay on the high line and get that run down the backstretch. And then I don't know. Philip was so fast. I knew if I just let him by without a fight, he was just going to take off, and I just tried to race him hard. It was just too much. But I don't know. It was close. It was racing. I know he said he doesn't take hard feelings, but like I think you've said before, you can't get those spots back, and I understand that. So I don't know, man. That was my season, so I had to race him as hard as I could, and just things didn't go quite right.
No, and that was kind of my thought is quite frankly, you had to win the race tonight, and you put the 99 in a position to where it was going to be hard for him to make the pass. But if you finished fifth like you did tonight, or you finished second, ultimately the result championship wise would have been the same. So I think that hopefully everyone at home understood, and certainly I think both of us in the booth understood why you raced as aggressively as you did, because that was the only shot that you were going to have for the championship. But given your result in the championship this season, going into next season, when it starts in April or March or whenever it starts, what's your confidence level, and just kind of what are your thoughts going into next season?
Pretty high. I feel like I've gotten faster kind of each season. I feel like I've been a little more consistent lately, so that's really helped. I'm really hoping Jason, John, and all those guys come back. I know Philip will probably be a factor. He's gotten a lot faster as the season went on. Matt's come on hot, so I mean that's huge. But I don't know. I really want everybody to return, because I think we got a good group of guys. They're really fun to race. They all race pretty clean with each other, and I don't know. I think I could compete with them. I don't know if I could beat guys like Jason and John on a weekly basis, but hopefully, I could compete with them in terms of just keeping pace and hoping something goes right for me. But yeah, I don't know. I hope I do well next season, but there's a lot of factors that play into that too.
All right, before we get to the shout-outs, and I promise you we'll get to them, but how much butt are we going to kick on Monday night? Just come on.
So much butt. We're actually lining up on the outside for this first race. Now, that might be a death sentence with how those cars handle, but I'm pretty excited for that. I've never ran those cars, not a whole lot anyway, so it's sort of a new challenge for me. I'm pretty excited about that.
So for the viewers at home that don't know what we're referring to, Chris Starling and I and Kevin Finn are all teaming up for the Erskra. I always get the middle letters confused, on 3Y TV with the COT at the Daytona 250, and I think we're all pretty excited about that. But Chris, it's the end of the season. you contribute so much to this league. Let's hear those shout outs.
Oh man, this is me on the spot. Ready for it? I got to give a huge shout out to Stay Tuned Sports, title sponsor. He does a great job at supporting the league. I'm pretty sure he's back on for next season. Actually, I'm positive he's back on for next season. So there's that announcement. Bear Street Journal, Brookstone Animal Hospital, all our other sponsors, Taz Racing Customs. See, there's so many. I forget, and I don't want them to think that they are forgotten. Just my brain is so damn fuzzy lately. Oh, dang fuzzy lately. That I always leave somebody out. So I just want to thank everybody who's made the league possible. It's been fun. It's a good hobby to have for really everybody involved. I think everybody, for the most part, gets along. Everybody's friends in here. So just a huge shout out to all the sponsors. Huge shout out to all my teammates. We work good together all year. That's 2021 A and B. But yeah, so just everybody in the league, you guys, I just want to thank everybody. It's been fun.
Well, thanks so much for talking with us, Chris. And I know that you wish you were one position higher in points, but second in points is nothing to sneeze at considering the fantastic season you've had. And we look forward to next season. Thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, if I had to lose a championship to anybody, I've been racing with Jason for close to 18 years. We met up for the first time this past year at Dover. That was super fun. So I'm really happy for him. I don't think he has a mic tonight, unfortunately. Something about like his dog ate it or something, but whatever. Yeah, my dog ate my homework when I was a teenager too. No, I'm super excited for him. I'm glad he won it. So big props to him. Hopefully he returns, and hopefully we can have him back to defend it.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking with us, and congratulations on the fantastic season. And we look forward to seeing you next year.
Next year
season? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll get that figured out.
Absolutely, man. Thanks.
All right, that's going to do it with the runner-up in points, Chris Darling, and his number 11 machine bringing home a top 5. Now, unfortunately, we do not have your series champion Jason Gracias here to accept the series title, but Vincent Valvano in the number 64 machine, who had such a great night. Vinny, let's first talk about your race, because fourth place, a great run for you here tonight in your Bagcraft machine. Tell us about your race. It looked like you had some great battles out there on the racetrack tonight.
I was super pumped to get all the way up to fourth place. I was starting to learn the track a little more as we got going. Shu and I made a decision to take our final set of tires with about 40 laps to go, and we're like, let's just pray it goes green and try and make a long run and save those tires as best as possible. And it worked out, and I was pumped. I was excited.
Yeah, really, really good run. I believe equaling your best run of the season.
Yes.
Here tonight. So great way to round off the 2021/2022 series here in the Stay Tuned Sports podcast truck series. And how cool is it to kind of get that momentum going into next season whenever it starts?
Yeah, it's great. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm pumped to end on a strong note, and can't wait for it to start back up, honestly.
And that will be soon right here on 3 Wide TV. Now, shifting gears just a little bit, Vinny, because Jason Gracias has tabbed you to accept the series title. Not sure if you have any words from Jason that you want to have, or if you want to just jump to thank yous and all of that stuff. But I'll let you say what you have to say for Jason, who's not here.
All right, on behalf of Jason, I know that he is pumped to add this to his iRacing career, and he wants to say a few thank yous to, of course, everybody at NSRA, Chris and all the guys, and of course you, Peter, and 3Y TV, and MaxGrafix. He wants to give a shout out to them, and Bagcraft, our team. We have a nice little team just starting up, and the guys are great, and Jason's always giving me tips and helping me out, and he's become a a good teammate, a nice friend. And I'm excited to accept this for him. He did a great job. He had a great season. So if there's anybody else I missed, I'm sorry. He wanted to give a shout out to all the key players. You know who you are.
Absolutely. Vincent, thanks for dropping on by here. Congratulations on your fourth place finish, and hopefully Jason can teach you his tricks, because it seems like he's got a trick or two up his sleeve every single week here in the National Sim Racing Association. I hope to talk to you again soon, Vinny.
Yes, thanks, Peter. All right, let's go, Jason.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our post-race interviews. Drew, another race coming down to the wire, and the championship keeping us on our heels. There's, you look back at the race, and man, this race could have gone a couple of different ways. At the end of the night, if caution flags had or had not come out at certain times, if we had seen long green flag runs, it really kept us on our toes. There was a lot of different strategies being played, especially towards the end of the race, and it made for yet another fun NSRA race here on 3 Wide TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you would have guessed at the 1/3 mark who was going to win, the 2/3 mark who was going to win, and what we saw at the end of the 3/3 mark, of course, the end of the race, I think all three would have been different guesses. And I think that if you can't predict who's going to win at any given moment in the race, except, of course, for the last probably 20 laps, then I think that's a fantastic race. Matt Cherry holding off Jason Gracias. Jason Gracias winning the championship. Both the 11, the 12, the 971, all having kind of their moments during the race where they were running up front, potentially going to try to take that championship away from Jason Gracias. But ultimately, Peter, in my opinion, the driver who performed so consistently when they started, now granted they did miss a few races, but I don't think that in any given race anyone would have bet against Jason Gracias, and to me that is the mark of a true champion.
That is for sure. Shame we were not able to get an interview with him. But Drew, I'm going to have to leave you with a little bit of a homework assignment here, and that's we need to figure out who the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. Unfortunately, due to the computer issues I had at the start of the stream, I'm going to have to let you kind of do the math there. But we are going to go through the final race results before we get around to that here. So just bear with me for 1 second here as we get that removed and we bring up the final race results. And it might take just a little bit because my program's running a little bit slow, folks. Thanks for bearing with the technical issues here tonight. It has not been the most fun. There is the final race results, and it is Matt Cherry taking home his third win of the season. Believe it or not, extremely impressive that he is able to win 3 of the last 5 races. Jason Gracias coming home in second, your series champion. Stan Hausman, strong third. Not able to get to victory lane this season, but I'm sure he will be a threat to contend with next season. Vincent Valvano equaling his season best 4th spot. Chris Darling finishing 5th. Ben Mashburn in 6th. Justin White coming home in 7th. Nick Kessler 8th. Doug Milliner in 9th. And Jason Shue is going to round out our top 10 there, Drew. Have you, I'm going to ask if you finished your homework project. If not, I can continue on.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Beer Street Journal himself started in 23rd, finished in 3rd position. Stan Hausman, our Taz Racing Customs biggest mover of the race award, goes to our 3rd place finisher, that number 39 machine of Stan Hausman. Back to our race results, Nathan Maurer in that 971 machine, certainly not the result that he wanted, especially given that pretty substantial incident that he had in, and I guess about the middle part of the race, about the 50% mark. Trying to remember exactly what lap that happened. Nonetheless, quite frankly, a pretty solid recovery to finish 11th for Nathan Maurer. Then Philip Scott had that incident with Chris Darling. Of course, I would argue over the course of probably 5 to 10 to 20 to over the course of a run, the quickest driver tonight, Philip Scott, in that number 99 Ninja League machine. He'll finish in 12th position. Then John Canizaro, another one of our championship contenders tonight, an alternative strategy not quite working out, but he did what he could, and he'll finish in 13th. And Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Travis White, Adam Newton in that 29, And now we get into the guys that started to have real problems during this race. Of course, Adam Dama, Adam Leichte all had those massive impacts on that restart. And then Randy Perdue, Evan Gilbert finished multiple laps down. And then, of course, rounding out our field, Randy Bledsoe, who had that early wall contact. And Tristan Maher, our pole sitter, didn't even see lap 10 after multiple impacts with the outside wall and the inside wall, quite frankly, in that 17 machine. He'll finish in 22nd. And then Fred Lester, our last finisher, in 23rd. And, of course, Scott Tompkins, our in-race official, technically did not start in that 888 truck, and he is scored in 24th position.
So that's going to be our final wrap of the season. Fred Lester in the number 48 machine. Not sure why, but looks like he was being scored 23rd with some type of disqualification. Not exactly sure what that was about, but few shout-outs that we need to give here on 3 Wide TV. And, of course, the first one is Stay Tuned Sports for sponsoring the Stay Tuned Sports podcast. That truck series is going to be great to have them back. Great to have them in the chat as well here tonight on the channel. Staying up late with us and keeping an eye on all that action all the way to the drop of the checkered flag. We got Jason Freeman, John Canizaro Jr., Jeffrey Johnson Jr. In the chat as well. Mitchell Adams, thanks for dropping on by here, folks, on 3 Wide TV. Big shout out to tonight's race sponsor, BeerStreetJournal.com. If you have not checked them out, checked out their Facebook page or their Twitter, make sure you do so, because BeerStreetJournal.com is absolutely awesome and is the place I go to find out my beer news. Also, need to give a shout out to CraigSetupShop.co.uk for sponsoring our pole shootout. Greatest spot to get your iRacing setups in the business. Absolutely love their setups for everything that they put out. Best place to kind of go jump and grab a setup and go racing in iRacing, because you and I know we don't have the time these days always to put together a big, great, flashy setup. So go check out craigsubshop.co.uk. Becoming Dr. Mashburn, the podcast, another great place to check out. One of the sponsors here, MaxGrafix.co. Lots of trucks that you saw here tonight painted by MaxGrafix.co. Make sure you check them out. Taz Racing Customs. If you have a design in mind for a custom diecast of a NASCAR, well, Taz Racing Customs will help you out with that. There's a link to their Facebook page in the description. I know someone recently who picked up a Taz Racing Customs machine, and they are absolutely stoked with it. It is on their shelf, and they sent me a picture saying thank you for highlighting them here in the National Sim Racing Association. Checked out some of our broadcasts here on the channel. Really, really awesome to have them on board all season long. And Stan Hausman, cannot thank Stan Hausman enough. Brookstone Animal Hospital is one of the Hausman businesses, and you can check out Brookstone Animal Hospital if you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area. It's kind of fitting we end tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway in that regard. And of course, Stan also helping getting BeerStreetJournal.com on here. Not one of his businesses, but a good friend of his, I believe. And gotta say, big supporter here of the National Sim Racing Association, all the administrators that help put this series all together. It is a lot of fun to be here each and every week, Drew, and hopefully we can get some good races next season. I don't think you'll be up here in the booth for the entire season. We'll have to work around that, but definitely hope to have you back up here in the booth, Drew, because it's a lot of fun and they put on a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the end of my studies, both domestic and abroad, come some pretty hopefully exciting life changes. So yeah, I anticipate that I'm going to miss quite a few races, but for the races that I'm going to be able to be present for, I'm super excited for next season, given the incredible finishes. Peter, I don't think we've had a season where we've had more side-by-side races for the race when, if not in the last couple laps, in the last lap itself. And if this season was any indicator, I think that next season is going to be a heck of a thing that I think that the viewers at home should be incredibly excited for, as am I.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for the season here on 3Y TV. We'll see you soon, hopefully in a few months from now, a few weeks from now. And at that point, I'll most likely be a father, so a lot to look forward to in our household as well. But until we meet again, folks, stay safe and all that good stuff, and we shall see ya.